Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, August 28, 2018. I'm Yvesta Boynes with the details. A comprehensive disaster plan must have the input of all the relevant stakeholders to be successful. That's the conclusion of Gail Drakes, head of the Disaster Management Agency of Barbados, who is in St. Vincent to facilitate a 3-day disaster country plan workshop. The workshop, which opened today, is designed to improve the effectiveness of the National Disaster Action Plan. It has drawn representation from a wide cross-section of organizations. At the opening ceremony this morning, Drake said the region has experienced natural events such as the recent 6.8 magnitude earthquake, which caused some damage in Trinidad and Tobago, and the passing of Hurricanes Irma and Maria, which caused billions of dollars in devastation across the region. She said these events signal the need for a multi-year results-based country program.
These events underscore the need for comprehensive disaster management programming, which gives consideration to all hazards, all aspects of the disaster management cycle, and the tangible contributions of all people. The development of multi-year results-based country work programs is intended to deliver this. These programs build on key lessons from past events, the application of the CDM audit tool, and analysis of past work programs, and utilize this information to chart the priorities for CIMA participating states for 3 to 5 year periods. Country work programs are designed to deliver change towards resilience, and to do this, it requires commitment from you, the body of diverse stakeholders, not only through its development process, but also in its implementation, monitoring, periodic reporting, and also evaluation.
Director of NEMO, Michelle Forbes, said local disaster agencies must have all systems functioning after a natural hazard to provide effective services, and the workshop will assist each of the agencies represented in implementing the necessary strategies in this regard.
In developing our program, we must also be reminded that 2017 was one of the most devastating hurricane season on record for the region, and many lessons have been learned. How do we as a region manage our response? The challenges that our local disaster offices and country had with the continuity of operations of government. That's a very key area that we really need to focus on, because if we are impacted, the show has to go on. We must be able to bounce back as quick as possible to get our systems up and running. And our activities to reduce some of these disruptions, and of course chart a course for the next 5 years of building our country resilience to natural hazards. Many of you may ask, why am I involved in this country work program? But when we develop this country work program, it will be a reflection of what each agency's contribution to building disaster risk management in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will look like in the next 5 years. It does not mean that the NEMO Secretariat is the one that is implementing that particular program. It can be done by whether it's forestry, the Ministry of Physical Planning, the Red Cross, any other agency that is involved in disaster risk management. It is what we are going to do as a country to chart our course.
Forbes said the participants must have consideration for vulnerable groups such as the elderly, and the workshop offers the opportunity to make provisions for such groups.
I mean, how our programs affecting the elderly man, the elderly woman, because from our research and from our data being collected over the last few years, for example, that we have seen that the elderly men are more marginalized, or more, what should I say, at a disadvantage in our society when it comes to disasters, in that they are being abandoned in some cases, and they're being left alone because they do not have that social network or social programs to actually assist them in recovering easily from an event. We also need to look at our mentally and physically challenged, our boys and girls, and our environment and information and communication technology. How are we going to include that in disaster risk management over the next 3 days? The country work program will take into consideration the gaps that have been identified recently by many of you.
Officials from the Public Health Department say there is still more work to be done to control the mosquito, which is responsible for the spread of the Zika virus. This even as the Caribbean Public Health Agency stated earlier this month that there is low risk of contracting the disease in the region. The Ministry of Health, underscoring this information this week, issued a news release stating that the last case of Zika in SVG was recorded in the latter half of 2016. Shamanti Laban, a public health officer, said this resulted from intense work done by the department to build the capacity of the staff and an emphasis on source reduction.
Our focus more is on source reduction as opposed to targeting the adult mosquitoes. So at the source, you're able to target both the eggs, the larvae, and as well as the pupae. Okay. We've also had recent training in a number of areas. One being our most recent would have been in mosquito identification, and they would have been trained on other surveillance method as well as new surveillance methods in vector control. And this training will help to strengthen the capacity in mosquito identification as well as surveillance of mosquitoes. There's also been training on GIS, which is a new tool that can be also used for mosquito surveillance. And this training will also continue, and we'll also continue to have these trainings.
Laban said that a public education program through the use of volunteers played a key role in their success so far.
From 2016, we would have had an initiative which may have been the first in the Caribbean, which was the volunteer program. I'm not sure how many persons recall this, but so basically persons would have been trained to go around to assist the workers in doing house inspections. So we would have educated a number of persons, and then they would have done the inspections, identify breeding sites in order to reduce the mosquito population and reduce the breeding size, as Mr. James would have indicated, source reduction. Now these persons in turn, they can ensure around their home and their communities that persons don't breed or have any breeding sites because they would have been educated or empowered to do so.
Meanwhile, Chief Environment Health Officer Neri James said while the department is pleased with the successes achieved, it is still necessary for persons to protect themselves from mosquito bites and avoid creating conditions for the breeding of mosquitoes.
The task is simple, but because we are dealing with different types of persons, their reaction varies. So you have persons that will comply, and you will have persons that may comply only if you use the law, only if you charge them. And we are lacking in charging persons. So I am appealing to persons out there that vector-borne disease is not child play. It is a serious thing. It is very costly, and it is very important for us as a nation, as a people, to make sure that we do what is best.
The Spiritual Baptist Archdiocese has provided 8 bursaries to children of members to assist in their preparations to begin secondary school next Monday. The bursaries were awarded at ceremonies held at Spiritual Baptist churches at Overland 2 weeks ago and at Sion Hill last Thursday. The bursaries were awarded from a fund that was established in the memory of the late Archbishop Cosmo Pompey, who died in 2010. Bishop Melford Pompey, Senior Bishop of the Spiritual Baptist Archdiocese and son of the late Archbishop, tells SVG-TV News that his father would have been pleased with the gesture.
12, we launched that fund, and we call it the Cosmo Matthias Pompey Fund. That is how it is known now. If my father was alive, I believe he would have just said, "Well done, my son. I am satisfied," because that was his life. He liked to help people, he liked to help children, and I'm sure that is what he would have said to me, "Well done, my son."
Pompey said by this gesture, the diocese, which comprises over 40 congregations, is ensuring that they assist with the educational needs of their young members.
Cosmo Matthias Pompey, he did a lot in terms of trying to have his children getting a good education, a formal education. As a matter of fact, all 5 of us passed through the teaching service, both at the preschool and primary school level. I was fortunate to be a preschool teacher and also a primary school teacher. I thought that we are doing a lot in the spiritual part. How about doing something educational-wise to assist the students in our churches, and hence the presentation last Thursday.
This is the first year that the diocese is offering bursaries which range from $300 to $600 to its young members. On Flow's annual Internet Summer Program, where more than 100 students are now more technologically ready ahead of the new school year, having been exposed to 4 weeks of training in this area organized by Flow. The youngsters who were drawn from various schools received their completion certificates at a closing ceremony today.
More internet advanced, having completed the annual Flow summer program. The students who participated in the program were between the ages 5 to 18. They collected their certificates today at the closing ceremony held at the Methodist Church Hall. Flow's Senior Marketing and Communications Officer, Nikayla Williams, said the company is delighted to have more children on board this year as they prepare students to keep abreast with technology.
In every aspect of the work world, you're going to need to have basic education when it comes to IT, when it comes to computers, because everything comes right back to the computer, even your smartphones. So I want for you to remember what you learned. I know it was fun, but do not leave it there.
The students were given the opportunity to learn about software programming, internet etiquette, develop stories using PowerPoint, and creating apps. This is the 14th year for the summer program, and Flow's country manager, Wayne Hall, said the program was conceptualized with the children of SVG in mind.
Especially in school. Now, this Internet Summer School has evolved from just not being about the internet, but we also have evolved it into a program that educates the students about information communication technology. It's popularly called the ICT. You may be more familiar with that term. And we also revolutionized the program where we gave a soft introduction to software programming. And we sort of also thought that this program would make a real great impression on the minds of the students in terms of making the best use of the technology, and as well as helping them in ICT.
Hall said the company hopes to extend the program to the rural areas and the Grenadines come next year.
We'll take the program back into the rural communities, especially I want us to take the program back into the islands of the Grenadines of like Bequia, Kanawha, Union Island next year, so that we can bring this program as well to children in those areas who cannot, as you know, for geographical reasons, travel to St. Vincent to be part of this program on the main island.
This year, courts supported the program by providing 4 computers, while teachers were identified from the community college. Students and parents were excited to share their knowledge and experiences gained from the program.
Well, my son, we registered him, didn't know what to expect, and he came home every day telling us, we did 3-dimensional things, and every day he wants to go, he's so excited. So at this point, I want to give some thank you. All right, we want to thank the Flow team for an excellent job.
I do not know how soon I'll be using my newly acquired skills, but it has been given me a head start for the future. I guess you know that I'm already looking forward to 2019.
It teaches me how to program the computer, how to do computer programming. And I learned a lot which I didn't know before. It was very interesting and fun.
Reporting for SVG-TV News, I am Larissa Pugsley-Kidd.
80 children from the community of Top Belair received gifts of school supplies from the Fountain Seventh-day Adventist Church at a back-to-school program last Saturday hosted by its Community Service Department. The church said the objective of the program was to foster bonds between the church and the community by providing much-needed assistance to families as they prepare their children for the new school year. Community service leader for the Fountain SDA Church, Phyllis Cumberbatch, encouraged parents to play a vital role in the development of their children to aid in their success in life. The church said that the event formed part of its mandate of fulfilling the mission of Christ in the community. Trading by sea between Guyana and St. Vincent and the Grenadines will soon be made easier once negotiations being done by Guyana's honorary consul to SVG, Nigel Russell, bear fruit. Russell revealed this information during an interview with SVG-TV News yesterday. The desire is to have a ferry which currently does business between St. Lucia and Guyana include SVG as one leg in that arrangement. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd tells us more.
Persons desirous of trading and shipping items to Guyana from SVG and vice versa can do so in about a month's time. This is according to the Honorary Consul of Guyana to SVG, Nigel Russell, who spoke with SVG-TV News yesterday. Russell said the boat to be used would be from St. Lucia.
Intending to do right now is this. Go down to St. Lucia. I need to have a look at the boats to see its seaworthiness. First entry to St. Vincent is the very first thing that I wanted to do. Two of the boats that do the runs, one docks in St. Lucia, the other one docks in Guyana. The one that docks in St. Lucia is the one that we primarily wanted to use, if you don't understand why. It docks in St. Lucia. So it goes down to Guyana, picks up cargo directly from Guyana back to St. Lucia. So we want to get it into that hub to get it to St. Lucia now with our stuff, and then it goes to dock in St. Lucia, which is its normal run.
According to Russell, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and Invest SVG are playing key roles in pursuing this new arrangement. He said many Guyanese living in SVG have expressed a desire to make use of the service once the boat begins to ply the new route.
Right now, we've got like 20 people wanted to ship. We have people who want to ship things from here to Guyana also. So we do believe that this will change so much for St. Vincent in terms of its economy. It will indeed help much of the people there who are into production of so many different things that can be needed in Guyana. We do believe that this very straight hub from Guyana to St. Vincent will be able to be helpful. I can tell you that. Because I'm one of those who want to do trading also between the two countries, and we do believe that doing this has been long in coming, and I do believe that we are on the right track in trying to get this done.
The new trade arrangement is one of the mandates of the honorary consul who took up his diplomatic posting in SVG earlier this month. Russell is encouraging the approximately 4,000 Guyanese who are living in SVG to make use of the consular services which his office now affords.
So we've made it very convenient for every single person. You have this at your disposal. It gives you what are the fees for every single document here, and I can list you a few here. To have a new passport, there's a fee here. It tells you that, so we don't have nothing to hide. It is very much there. You can go on the website, it is there. But we've made it easier for you. Having the document at your disposal is easily, you can refer to that, you can go and take care of your business and then come to us. Here it is, your lost or stolen passport, a damaged passport, an emergency certificate, inter-Caribbean travel document, registration of births, registration of deaths, notarization, everything is here. So we've done this out and we pass to every Guyanese that we meet. We give them this document.
The consulate is located at McCarthy with a subsidiary office at Richmond Hill. Persons can also go to the website goguyana.org for additional information. Reporting for SVG-TV News, I am Larissa Pugsley-Kidd.
Motorists can now look forward to greater availability of a cleaner type of diesel. This as Sol SVG has increased the supply of low-sulfur diesel to consumers effective last week Monday, August 13th. Sol's General Manager C. Francis tells SVG-TV News that the decision was taken because of the decrease in the cost of the commodity that now retails at $11 per gallon, making it more competitive with the high-sulfur variant. Bavin Oliver tells us more in this report.
August 13th, the maximum retail price of low-sulfur fuel stands at $11 a gallon. This makes the low-sulfur diesel very competitive with the high-sulfur variant that retails at $10.98 per gallon. Sol's General Manager says the low-sulfur diesel is a more environmentally friendly fuel and places less stress on vehicles. He said that the government recently removed the duties on low-sulfur diesel, thus making it cheaper for those needing it.
So there are no duties right now. I think the intention where government is concerned is that once Trinidad can produce it, then they would then reapply duties. So this window has been granted to us simply because Trinidad does not produce low sulfur. So bearing that in mind, there's reduced costs since there are no duties. Hence, the price of low sulfur is now in line with high sulfur diesel. And of course, low sulfur diesel is a much better product than high sulfur diesel. I say this because the difference really is in the sulfur content. High sulfur diesel has a maximum sulfur content of 5,000 parts per million, 5,000 ppm, parts per million. While on the other hand, low sulfur diesel has a maximum sulfur content of 500 parts per million. So you can see there's a 10-fold difference in sulfur content. The lower the sulfur, the better it is for your vehicle.
Francis explained why the low sulfur diesel is a better fuel than the high sulfur variant.
The lower the sulfur, the better it is for your vehicle, because sulfur is really a particulate. And basically what this means is that it's a combination of solids and liquids that get into the atmosphere. And this can be in the form of smoke or soot. You know that black smoke you see sometimes on vehicles? This is really the sulfur acting up. So the less sulfur you have in your fuel, especially diesel, the better it is for you. So by having a low sulfur diesel, it basically means you get a better performance from your engine, and it benefits the environment, because nobody wants to be, inhaling that black, dirty smoke. So your engine performs better, you have a reduction in your maintenance costs, and so it benefits you, the consumer, and the environment.
Francis said Sol was providing the low sulfur diesel since 2014, but because of the high cost of the commodity, the company was able to provide it only in limited amounts. Francis said Sol management believes the fuel is here to stay, since most model vehicles cannot use the high sulfur diesel.
I will bet my last dollar that the specific requirement for those vehicles is not high sulfur diesel, it is low sulfur or ultra low sulfur diesel. But not only should we be talking about vehicles, other equipment. People who import things like backhoes, for example. You just bought a brand new backhoe out of, say, Europe or the United States, and it is diesel driven. The specification, I am positive, for that particular piece of equipment would not be high sulfur diesel. It is low sulfur diesel. The world has moved away from high sulfur diesel for quite some time now. As a matter of fact, the world is moving towards what is called no sulfur diesel. In other words, there's absolutely no sulfur in the diesel. So I don't think it is good for us to be pushing an environmentally unfriendly product such as high sulfur diesel when the world has moved away from that a long time ago.
For SVG-TV Evening News, I am Barvin Oliver.